We're going to start things off with a Lina first pick for Scary Faces and a Witch Doctor Io for Hehe after seeing Tusk Gyrocopter, Bounty Hunter, Endless Shrek Band. I'm Grandis V. I'll be your host and caster for today and for this series, and it should be a pretty good one. I'd expect these teams to be pretty closely matched. Last time Hehe were playing, they were against some pretty hefty opposition, I must say, and they're definitely a team that can put up a decent fight, and so can Scary Faces. These teams are fairly volatile in their play. On a good day, they could take games off of the top teams inside the scene, and on their bad days, can lose games that they probably shouldn't be. Winter Wyvern will be the pickup for Scary Faces, and I think it's a really good one. A way through BKB to cancel Witch Doctor's ultimate, and maybe more importantly, and yeah, probably more importantly, it's great against Io. Being able to Winter's Curse either the Io or the Io partner is a very reliable way to lock them down and get kills after they relocate in. If you're not careful, the Io's going to be dead 9 times, or 9 out of 10 times inside all of these fights, especially when you have a Lina as well to back it up with all of that burst damage that Lina offers. A very potent start to the draft coming out from Scary Faces. Whether this is your supporting duo, Lina and Wyvern, or whether Lina is put in mid, I don't think matters too much, but Scary Faces are still open to those options, whereas Hehe are a little bit more tied in with what they can do with their 2 picks. IO partners as a whole kind of fit a very similar mold. They're generally melee heroes that require that extra bit of mobility. Since Tiny's banned, maybe something like a Bristleback would be good. Although there are a lot of other heroes to partner up with that IO, and maybe it's not going to be any of the traditional IO partners, and it's just going to be IO for the sake of IO, which is also reasonable. There's still plenty of room inside the draft to change things up. Queen of Pain will be banned by Scary Faces, and Phantom Lancer banned by Hehe. And then they'll follow that up with a Shaker ban, expecting another support to be necessary for Scary Face's lineup. And it probably is. You don't want to be going up into a mid lane against Selena when she's backed up by the Shaker. Fissure into Light Strike Array. Her burst combination is absolutely terrifying to be playing up against with most of your mid laners. And this game he might consider going for an SF, but no, it's going to be a Drow Ranger for Hehe. Now that's very interesting. Io and Witch Doctor are range shares, although they're not going to get the biggest benefit from the aura coming out from the Drow. This is an Io partner, or a hero that you don't see drafted with Io very often, even if she's not going to be tethered most of the time. It's not going to be your conventional Io game, or maybe not even your conventional Drow Ranger game. However, even though they're not usually seen together, they kind of do play a very similar style, or can, with the relocates. You can pressure buildings very aggressively with the Drow Ranger, but now with the Darkseer for Scary Faces, I'm quite liking their lineup as a whole. I don't think Hehe have really drawn everything together. This is just a mesh of heroes yet that haven't really been tied up. Mirana now for Hehe. This is a very interesting draft coming out from them. Not something you're going to see every day. And very execution-based. Mirana, as far as carries are concerned, or as far as heroes are concerned, can scale pretty well into the later portions of the game, especially when backed up by a Drow Aura, but she kind of needs to be ahead. If Hehe get a couple of early kills and can translate that into map control, that's where their lineup really starts to function in a good manner. But if they get controlled by Scary Faces, lose some early game fights, and lose a couple of their own towers, it's going to be hard for them to come back into the game. Drow Ranger and Io can split push fairly effectively, but I think Scary Faces are in a pretty good spot. This Hehe United draft looks a little too niche. Scary Faces have more than enough picks to combat what Hehe are bringing to the table, and maybe they'll look to throw the Lina into a support now and pick up one of the cores that could very easily jump on a Hehe's side. Something like a Storm Spirit would be really good for them, although he'll struggle a little bit inside the mid lane against Drow Ranger, Mirana, or whatever the third pick is coming out from Hehe. It's an amazing hero to get on top of the Drow, and despite Drow Ranger having a silence that can be annoying for him to work around, it is very easy for him to take away that aura away from the Drow, catch her out while she's split pushing, and in general counters the playstyle that Hehe are going to be going for with these first couple of picks. Outside of Storm Spirit for Scary Faces, other heroes that could function in a similar fashion. Just any sort of blinking core might be nice. Although it's not usually seen, a Slark this game could be pretty good for them. Gets on top of the IO, blows up the IO at the start of the fight. Witch Doctor also very squishy, can fall prey to that. And in general, just a pretty good hero to have up in the face of the Drow Ranger. There's so many that kind of fit the bill, and it's one of the reasons why Drow Ranger isn't picked up that much right now. She feels a little too fragile. She gets caught out and just generally exploded by the amount of damage that's in the current metagame heroes. Scary Faces will pick up a Disruptor. This Lina is now almost assuredly going to be going mid, but their combination with the Darkseer is absolutely amazing. Vacuum back into the Static Storm Kinetic Field, Winter's Curse, you have Light Strike Arrays to throw in there as well. Their mid-game teamfight combination is incredible, and I don't think Hehe are going to be interested in fighting into that, and already it looks like this is going to be more or less just a split push game coming out from Hehe. Hehe are going to go ahead and ban out the Broodmother, and that's a reasonable ban in and of itself. They don't have great AoE to deal with those Spiderlings, and it would have been a good counter to what Hehe are playing, but then again, Scary Faces don't have the greatest laning situation for that. Still, would have been very annoying. Yeah, I think Scary Faces kind of have a draft advantage. He United have a very specific game plan in place. And just in the situation, how this draft has gone through, I think that Scary Faces kind of know exactly what Hehe are planning. Unless this last pick completely throws us for a loop. Should be an offlaner for Hehe United. Going aggressive with Witch Doctor Io Dro or Witch Doctor Morana Io is very awkward and not something that we're probably going to be seeing today, at least. If they want to stick to the ranged hero theme, something like a Puck could work decently well for them in that off lane, although against the Disruptor might struggle a little bit. They don't have solid lockdown for a Puck, and it could be one of the few laning situations where offlane Puck could actually thrive. I'm kind of liking that pick quite a bit, but if it's not going to be the Puck, Phoenix also fits the bill, or maybe even just pick up a standard offlaner, something along the lines of a Clockwork. For them could be reasonable. They don't necessarily need another range hero. The Drow Ranger and the Mirana are enough to benefit from that precision aura pretty significantly. Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on the draft coming out from Hehe, but their window is now apparent. They have a Pugna now, and if they don't ball up and if they don't take down these towers quickly, it's going to be very difficult for them this game to keep themselves sustained. Their lineup is very hit and miss, and I love this Slark pick coming out from Scary Faces. He's not going to be grouping up as well as some other carries would, and maybe that's a downside that Scary Faces are going to run into, but the rest of their heroes are so good inside the team fight that I think that they'll have more than enough fighting power to tide them over that maybe sketchy part, excuse me, inside the game as a whole. So Hehe have a very feast or famine draft, I want to say. They're going to be reliant on getting an early advantage in these lanes and then transitioning that into quick and very, very frequent tower pushes. Yeah, and as this game goes later, I'm not sure who I actually favor. I'm really tempted to say Scary Faces just have an outright better draft in the late game because of the vast amount of initiation. Hehe's initiation is arrow. That's about it. If they land an arrow, maybe they can follow up with a good relocate or something along those lines, but nothing akin to like a Blinking Winter's Curse, or a Yule Scepter into Light Strike Array, or a Blinking Slark, or a Blinking Darkseer, or even a Glimpse. It's just not as reliable, so Hehe, if they can pull it off, props to them. It's going to be a hard game. Very execution based. So let's introduce our lineups on the side of Scary Faces. Shadowy is going to be playing the Disruptor. State 21 on the Darkseer. New player on the Lina. Eknart on the Winter Wyvern. And Ramsey 666 on the Slark. For the side of Hehe, his is going to be playing on the Almost Invisible Io. MDL on the Witch Doctor. Cube on the Mirana. HWA on the Drow Ranger. And Claysinki on the Pugna. Something to be noted about these players individually, Cube is very good with his skill shot based characters and is a very potent Mirana. Usually he plays the offlane role for them, so it's probably going to be an offlane Potom for the side of Hehe. Maybe they'll offer some sort of support, but yeah, right now we're just kind of chilling. The teams inside the lobby and now inside the game have been very friendly with one another, or at least in the heart of friendly competition, have been very vocal. Well, hope we're not paused for too long. We don't have any disconnects or anything of the sort, and not a whole lot to talk about. I suppose we can take a look at how these lanes are going to shake down. Lina should be going mid for the side of Scary Faces, and I'd expect that to be up against a Pugna or a Drow Ranger. Neither of these heroes fare very well against the Lina. Drow's range advantage that she usually has over mid laners doesn't hold against Lina, and also Lina has a fair bit of damage, or at least comparable damage to the Drow. A little bit less, but still enough to CS against her, and she pushes the wave so much faster than the Drow Ranger herself. Looks like Drow is going to be going mid, starts out with Wraithband Tangos, no big surprises there, and GLHF boys. IO Pugna is a pretty interesting combination, especially if Kwaisinki's on the backlines and they tether up the IO with the Drow Ranger, but actually, now looking at their items, looks like it's going to be Pugna versus Lina as their mid lane matchup. Pugna IO, as I said, is kind of an interesting duo, as Pugna has a lot of great ways to sustain himself already, and then backed up by the IO can be deceptively tanky as the game progresses later. But both of these heroes are low armor, low HP, very easily bursted down, and even if it is a dual lane mid against Lina, I think Lina is going to fare quite well. Early wards coming out from the offlaners. There is going to be one place down bottom by the Darkseer, so he's going to have vision of the support rotations, at least in his lane. But for the side of hehe, they just weren't quick enough outside of the gate to place theirs down. Their rune contest, however, is very strong. If they can land an arrow, they could very easily just get a kill by overwhelming whoever they catch out. This could be a delicate situation. Let's see if the arrow is going to fly, and if the arrow is going to connect, they're going to eat a tango through the tree. Io is going to run towards the bounty rune spot. He really wants that 0-minute bottle, and he is going to secure that. Paralyzing cast bouncing forward. They have an arrow that connected onto Shadowy, and even though it won't directly get them the first blood, MDL is going to secure it on the Witch Doctor. Still isolated. Witch Doctor very squishy. They'll right-click down Shadowy. It's 2 for 2. The trade inside the river area. Now Cube's in a bit of trouble. He already skilled arrows, so no leap, but not going to be necessary. He'll be able to back off. The trade favors hehe quite heavily, even though it's even when it comes to kill numbers. They got the first blood, and they got the bounty rune for the IO. I'm pretty sure that IO bought out his bottle before dying. So now with that 0-minute bottle, the IO can sustain pretty much anywhere. Although if he gets into a man fight with the Slug, that's never a happy situation to be in as an IO. You can kite him around. With the extra 5 damage from the Joe, that might be nice. Ooh, arrow connects on the Eknar. That's going to be a lot of damage into the Wyvern. In fact, that stun is still lasting. They'll get 2 shots off from the IO and Morana apiece. But not going to be enough. An aggressive tri-lane, paralyzing cast bouncing forward. Eknart in a lot of trouble. They need a little bit more damage. Can they find it? Salving up the Winter Wyvern's going to buy himself some space. Now pounce over on MDL. Ramses is going to look to keep this Witch Doctor in spot. Another arrow, shoot arrow, hit arrow. And the Morana is currently sitting on a 3 for 3. Well played, Cube. That's going to be really good for the side of hehe. Killing off the safe lane farmer and already applying a truck ton of pressure. Drow Ranger 1v1 versus the Darkseer is not a great lane for the Drow. She's constantly going to be under tower. She has enough damage to where she can kill off these Ion Shield creeps fairly easily, but her attack animation is pretty bad, which makes last hitting under tower pretty difficult, and also no natural way to sustain. She'll probably get a pretty early Morbid Mask, or maybe even be forced to ferry out some regen. And Pugna versus Lina. The Lina should have a pretty hefty advantage. Weird lag spikes. Every time we're on Europe servers, it seems that there are a couple of hiccups here and there, but yeah, we'll just leave that as it is. Pugna for now is doing very well in CS, but if Kwaisinki ever gets caught out by a Light Strike Array, can be very easily bursted down. Pugna has no backup against Alina, although maybe he can decrypt himself to dodge a couple of auto attacks as they fly forward when he's running away. That's not reliable, and if he's poor in his time, he might just need an amplified Dragon Slave, which is not happy. But still, since hehe are doing so well in the top lane, I'm pretty sure that hehe are happy with how these lanes are progressing as a whole. 3 compared to 2 in our kill score to start things off. Another bit of a pause is we'll just wait until everything's sorted out. Lina's going to reconnect. And hopefully that's our good to go, as we should be able to progress inside this game. Sorry Ready is going to come out from Cube, and oh, looks like that didn't actually work. Scary Faces are still in a situation where they're not happy about their ping. Bit of an awkward spot. Bit of an awkward spot. I don't really have much else to talk about. The state of the game is going to progress much as it has been. A lot of pressure coming out from hehe. The IO is squishy if you can get on top of him, but actually isolating him is pretty difficult. And Scary Face's supports aren't great inside this try versus try scenario. Winter Wyvern and Disruptor really excel when it's just one hero that they have to deal with. If that hero is like a Clockwork or a Darkseer, they can very easily zone him out of experience. But inside these small scale skirmishes with a lot of heroes, Well, they don't tend to do that well. And nor does Slark. They'll still get some experience, but this amount of pressure, just psychologically, if they get hit by an arrow, they're pretty much dead. So it's all up to Cube to line those up, and he has been, at least early on. I was going to join the Pugna in mid, sustaining him and putting a lot of pressure onto the Lina. Lina 1v1 can do very well against Pugna, but with Aya's sustain help and just the constant spam of these blasts, it's going to be a little bit annoying for a new player to deal with, until he gets his bottle, that is, which won't be for another 100 gold. They're going to aggress onto Cube. Pounce away by the Mirana is going to keep her safe. No real way for them to commence that chase. Pretty passive early game. Aya's made a couple of movements towards mid, but not that many. Sooner rather than later, this tier 1 tower in mid should be going down once Pugna gets his third point up in blast. It can put a lot of pressure onto this wave, and if he just gets a little bit of help, that's all he really needs. TP up towards top, coming out from the Aya, is going to tether towards a creep. Not really relevant since everybody was at full HP and mana already, and we'll just have to wait for his next tether before he can really help out. Ramsey's going to eat all of those Wisp Orbs, and even though they're only level 1, does quite a lot of damage. Double damage rune is going to spawn bottom for Eknart. Probably not going to be super relevant, only 42 damage on Winter Wyvern, and there isn't a great place for Wyvern to go ahead and harass. Looks like she wants to wrap around down in bottom. The Dro dies solo to the Darks here, and an unexpected turn of events there. Just too much Iron Shell harass, I suppose. Stage 21's able to secure that kill even without any help from the supports. That honestly shouldn't be happening. Sentry Ward going to be placed out by Eknart. The ward that Dro Ranger was pulled has yet to be placed, so they're not going to find anything. But this Darkseer will continue his reign of terror down in bottom lane. He can pretty much just constantly cut these creep waves without much threat of the Winter Wyvern, especially from the Dro Ranger, because he has a Winter Wyvern behind him that could always offer a cold embrace should that need to be skilled. Actually goes for Splinter Blast. Maybe they want to go aggressive onto HWA, but HWA completely alone, going to silence up stage 21, slowed down by the Winter Wyvern, needs some TP support, and it's going to come in the form of the IO. Stage 21 does have a Surge available and a Soul Ring. Surge is going to fly forward, but the IO Orbs are going to do a lot of damage. Will slow down Eknart and change targets onto the Winter Wyvern. Level 2s, no points up into the Cold Embrace, means Eknart is slated to fall. They just need a couple more attacks. One from the IO and one from the Dro of Peace is going to secure hehe another kill. A pretty necessary one, too, after the Dro Ranger dies solo to the Darkseer. But as soon as Dro Ranger gets to level 6, it's a lot easier to stand inside this lane and be comfortable. Just a raw amount of damage can focus down those Iron Shell creeps quickly and effectively. And once you get some Orbid Mask or something along those lines, it's going to be difficult for the Darkseer to play as aggressively as he has been. Run up the top lane, phase boots completed, is going to be a nuisance for the Slark. So much damage coming out from her. She's not CSing as well as a lot of the other farmers inside this game, even compared to the Darkseer on the enemy offlane. Not doing too well, but she is applying a lot of pressure to the Slark and stopping him from farming as quickly as he'd like. Lines of the map are going to be drawn coming out from the Mirana. It looks like they want to look for a wraparound. Cube has an arrow, but looks like he doesn't want to throw it yet. Trying to find the angle. Ramses is salved up, so it's not the easiest kills there. And they get spotted by the range creep as he walks around the corner. So that kill attempt is pretty much completely down the tubes. They know where the Mirana is coming from. And again, the Dro Ranger dies. Stay tuned on just diving. They need some TP support from the Witch Doctor this time around, since Aya's TP was already on cooldown. Apologies for missing those. I'm really surprised that Dro Ranger is dying as much as she is, but the power of that Iron Shell is underestimated by me, at least. A little too much damage for Dro Ranger to be dealing with. Maybe they need to be sitting one of the supports behind the Dro. Io could sustain her through the Iron Shell harass, or Witch Doctor could at least pose a threat if Darkseer tries to commit that deep under tower again. Lena's going to bottle an Illusion Rune, but more importantly, she's going to be rotating up towards top lane, looking for the wraparound onto the Mirana and the Witch Doctor. They have a Disruptor to glimpse back Cube after he goes for the pounce, and the Light Strike Array connects. That could be very terrible. Light Strike Array is going to land right on the money for Cube, but a Paralyzing Cast is going to bounce back and forth, which will buy them a little bit more space, but not enough. They have the Dragon Slave. That'll secure the kill for Lina. They'll drop Ramses low, but not low enough. They're TPing in the Isle, looking for the Wisp Spirits. He's going to tether towards the creep wave, gets a couple of the Spirits to land. Ramses dropped, but not low enough. Another kill on the Dro Ranger coming out from the Darkseer, but in the meantime, Laguna Blade will secure the Wisp. They have another Light Strike Array. MDL's in a whole heap of trouble just with the raw right-click damage, and now another Dragon Slave after the wand charges are popped. Lina finds 2 in the top lane. I have no idea how the Dro Ranger keeps on dying down here, but the tier 1 tower is going to fall soon after the fact. Scary Faces are finding a lot for this DS. He has enough gold to complete the mechanism in just a couple of creeps should he want to, and that's after Boots and Soul Ring. A scary amount of farm since he's gotten 3 solo kills unpunished, at least directly. Mid tier 1 tower is going to take some damage since the Lina did go for that rotation up towards top. One of the benefits of having Pugna on your team is that you should be able to secure a tier 1 tower quickly, but now that Lina's returned, she'll be able to spam out the waves, and Pugna's too low, I want to say, to comfortably sit inside this lane. If Lina had mana, that is. New players forced all the way back to base will buy power treads, and by the time she comes back, she might not have a tier 1 to work with. The glyph has been spent, and with that glyph down, Pugna should be able to blast it. He thinks better of it. But now that he knows Lina's not there, that's going to be a dead tower. In the meantime, Slark's going to die, keep landing another arrow. Be another kill for hehe's side. All these lanes are so volatile. They're small things that could happen to get kills for anybody. Looking for the glimpse in mid. Not going to happen on the Clay Sinky. So the Pugna will be able to waddle back towards his tower. The tower gold is going to be much important for hehe as they want to keep up this momentum. But Terrarian just died one too many times. Ooh, Paralyzing Cast going to be thrown out towards Shadowy, but nobody to bounce that towards. But still the silence, and with the extra movement speed, Joe's going to be able to chase. Cold Embrace will keep him alive now. Lina's coming in from the right-hand side. If they land a Light Strike Array, that's pretty much dead heroes. And even if the Light Strike Array doesn't land, Laguna Blade will kill off the IO. HeflaTV is going to be slowed down. Watch right into the Light Strike Array. That's a double kill for new player. Buyback from the IO. Why didn't get back into this? MDL's running away from the Lina, but this path that he's taking, I'm not sure if that's going to lead to his survival, as Slark is also going hot on the pursuit. They have a Dragon Slave. That'll land. No slows coming up from the Winter Wyvern pounds up the trees. Witch Doctor's going to juke towards the north. MDL, he's going somewhere, but this somewhere doesn't land in his safety. He's going to die under the shadow of the tier 2 tower top lane. I suppose that's space graded. Lina's there with not a lot of mana to speak of. Has some backup, however. They're going to chase forward with Cube. Arrow's going to connect short range. Not a lot of damage there, but with 3 points up in the Starfall, it's going to be quite a lot in a new player. Now with the IO Spirit, so be able to kill off the Lina. A high priority kill there, but now Nehiz is in a lot of trouble. Dieback for the IO. Winter Wyvern is going to lose his life in trade. Dominating spree down the tubes, I believe. From the Lina that was ended by the IO. Cube with the remainder of that Moonlight Shadow is going to be able to run out to safety. 8-12. An absolute slugfest from both of these teams, and it's not over yet. Mirana's sticking around, but those are just illusions for her to deal with. Darkseer, or Disruptors, excuse me, coming around the corner. But has no backup from a hero like the Darkseer to get that kill. As far as Mirana's build is concerned this game, probably going to be drums for her. With the Robe of the Magi, just a little bit of extra mana sustain now. Cube is low, needs to be careful. Lina's around the corner. They'll get the D-ward successfully, but Cube needs to find some place to heal. Or at least partner up with the Eye, who is just right around the corner, has an Urn Charge, and has a full bottle. So he should be able to stay on the map. Draw Rangers, going to bump into the Slark. Slark wants to go for this kill. He has a pounce at the ready and an ultimate. He's going to purge off that silence instantaneously, but Ramses might be forced to use his ulti here. He'll pounce away to safety. Arrow is going to fly, hit a creep. No kill going to be successful there, and now Slark has more than enough backup to go for this fight. They're going to Sentry Ward, make sure that they haven't been spotted out immediately. Another Sentry will be placed by the Dyer's side, but this fight could go either way. The Wisp Spirits are going to spot out a couple of these heroes, and now Wisp slowed down. They're going to glimpse back Nehiz. Arrow, however, going to catch out Stage 21. Static Swarms on the ground, but doesn't catch any enemy heroes. Nehiz going to not get hit by that Dragon Slave, although visually it looked like it was close. New players here with the Regeneration Rune. They're itching to fight. Scary Faces are slowly but surely finding an advantage here, but now completely sustained up. Hehe want to look for this engagement. Shadowy's going to eat a lot of the Wisp harass. They need an arrow to connect if they want to find this fight, but the arrow is spotted long before its destination, so it isn't going to connect onto anyone. Everybody's tied up in this top lane. There's really not anything else to look at. Lina will back up as she's flying out her Staff of Wizardry and will pick up some farm here and there, so unless Hehe get this tower soon, this is going to be a de facto win for Scary Faces as they just pick up more gold across the map. That said, their tower pushing power is very potent. In fact, it might even be worth glyphing it now. Or at least as soon as the first Pugna Blast is dropped, but with the Winter's Curse, they'll blow up Clay Sinky. What have the big disadvantage of having Grow? Everybody hits so hard, and they're going to experience that firsthand. Tether over to the Mirana as Slark is going to chase forward. The Lina is going to intercept as HWA is caught out by the Darkseer. A fourth kill onto the Dro coming out from our DS. Ramses is going to be dropped a little too low to keep on chasing. Looking for the Laguna Blade will blow up the poor light bulb. That's 4 kills for the side of Scary Faces unanswered by Hehe. A lot of momentum has been lost, and now Hehe are staring down the barrel of a team that has a 4,000 net worth lead where Hehe's team is supposed to be at its strongest. Once you get that experience up for the Pugna where he has his maxed out blast, you want to be grouping up with their Dro as well. leap into arrow will land nicely into new player. Glimpse back into Mirana, however, Cute might be in a little bit of trouble to get a couple of good bounces. Ooh, Decrepify. They're trying to look to nuke down new player, but he turns around. Light Strike Ray is going to catch on to two. Mirana's still chasing forward. Looks for the Starfall. Starfall damage isn't going to be there. New player's a little too swift, but the one fiery soul going to work. Here's going to be thrown out. Is that going to clip anybody? Right on the edge. New player is going to be stunned by, but with a nice kinetic field, that's going to delay the chase forward. They'll relocate over towards the other side. Light Striker Ray will be on the money. Dragon Slave will also connect, but a nice arrow into relocate will serve Hehe to get another kill. Chasing forward for Ramses. The IO has to go back to where he came, and the arrow is going to miss. So Ramses is going to be safe back towards his base. An absolute slugfest from both of these teams. Well, 9-16. Things have slowed down a little bit as people aren't actively trying to kill each other, but they are going to be pushing into the tower. One more Pugna Blast out to do this one, and they have the glyph. Will use it before the Pugna Blast destroys it, but actually stopping this tower from going down is impossible. They'll lose it. Pugna will get the tower destruction. Now halfway towards his Aghanim Scepter, a little bit more than that, in fact, for Clay Sinky. Scary Faces, this is the scariest part of the enemy draft for them to worry about. As long as they can take this game another 20 minutes or so, or at least not lose their base by 25-30, they'll be in a pretty good situation, as Slark is going to have his first major initiating item. He just aren't in a substantial enough golden experience advantage to really be happy about this. But ooh, arrow lands up top. Shadowy is going to be caught up. Poor Disruptor is going to die to Cube. And I've seen that a couple times before. 5-1 and 3. This Mirana has been on the money with those arrows. Dominating spree for Cube. Drums are completed. Exactly the item you want to be going for when you are fighting this aggressively and fighting this early. Great for Mirana, great for the rest of the team. Yeah, Draw Ranger with the 3 Wraith Bands also ready to fight right about now. So it's only a matter of time before Hehe find a pick off and try to go for another push. But whether that pays off or not is another story entirely. Right now is the easiest time to kill Lina before she has the Eul Scepter Divinity online. It'll make it a lot harder for them to pin her down. That's fast reaction, should be able to dodge most arrows, and if not dodge arrows, just set up kills her own. This Lina is packing a cannon, even though she doesn't have the greatest amount of farm this game. That title's actually held by the Darks here, as he's been farming away to his heart's content. 70-1 in the last hits department, 6-0-1 KD. Stay 21's having a grand old time. Invised up, going to bump into MDL. They will know that somebody's around the corner. They'll look for the Light Strike Ray. Light Strike Ray is going to be off the money, and they drop a sentry down on the ground. I don't think the Darks here should be walking around that corner since he knows that he was spotted, but at least try to farm up this creep camp. Iron Shield's going to go to work, but I think they should be able to steal these last hits. Io's going to get the small Hellbear, and with the Io Orb explosions, we'll actually get all of the creeps inside that camp. Relocate where they're going. Back to base. It was a little bit anticlimactic, but now with fresh bottle recharge is going to join the rest of the team, and actually, no, going to TP top. Nihiz wants to push this top lane as much as possible, and is successful. Very well timed TP, actually, as Nihiz is able to blow up the creep wave and then join the rest of the team pushing bottom. Although it seems like a small thing, it really is quite nice. Tier 1 tower is going to be put under a lot of pressure in this bottom lane, but it looks like Scary Faces aren't interested in contesting that. They'll get some farm up top, get some farm inside their woods. It's not worth the risk of taking a fight now with the raw amount of damage that you have to contest this off-lane Tier 1 tower. Probably the worst tower to hold inside the game when it comes to map control. Arrow's going to be thrown out. Sidestep by Shadowy. They won't be able to get that kill on the Disruptor. And things have slowed down quite a lot. He should be considering how they could go into Roshan, and Draw Ranger, once she gets to level 11, could in theory solo it, but their team as a whole does it very quickly with that extra damage on everybody, currently tallying 39 bonus damage. Multiplied across 5 heroes, that's a very hefty sum. Blink Dagger on Darks here, Eul Scepter on Lina. This is Scary Faces' turn to go on the aggressive, as they have a couple of big items that will allow them to fight pretty effectively. So let's see if they want to group up, look for a smoke, look for some pickoffs, and there's your Shadow Blade on the Slark. This is what Scary Faces have kind of been waiting for. This is their window to hit. Pinging out in the mid lane. Lina's going to walk forward, looking for the Euls. Not quite fast enough to catch out the Io, and well, now they know the Eul Scepter's up for Lina, but that's not completely unexpected. What they don't know is that Darkseer is farmed out of his mind. Blink into 3 points vacuum should be enough for them to set up some pretty nice fights on their own side. Although you'd like to have the vacuum maxed out, this is still a pretty good timing for Scary Faces. I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't go for this smoke play. They're going to respect Hehe, maybe a little bit too much, but they should also be happy with just getting farm. It's Hehe's game to lose, in the sense that they're the ones that need to be taking down these towers. Regeneration rune on the Io, going to be expiring in about a minute, so they have a minute to spam out as many Pugna Blasts as they can. Looks like they're just going to use that to push out the jungle, or take out the jungle and push out some waves, but not actually pressure towers. Pretty interesting to see Ramses go for this Shadow Blade and then not try to find kills immediately afterwards. Slark is a hero that you have to very carefully balance going for creep kills and going for hero kills. And I think this game, his decision to stay in farm is completely fine, as he are a little too grouped up for the Shadow Blade to really be effective. But in that sense, unless you do something like this, maybe it's not the right choice. Here's that smoke I was talking about a while ago. It's maybe a little bit more delayed than I would have thought, but I think Scary Faces have found a good opportunity. They're going to walk into the enemy woods. They might have spotted out some Wisp Orbs, but instead they're just going to go straight down into the lane. They're going to bump into Pugna. Claysinki's going to pop the smoke, and this should be a very easy kill onto Claysinki. Do they have detection on the ground for this Moonlight Shadow? Do they even need it? They'll blow him up wicked sick for stage 21, as he's the one to secure the kill with the Ion Shield Slark. Hehe are not going to be dusted up, although that dust was spent by the Winter Wyvern, just making sure that nobody else gets caught. The Io is going to go for a short relocate, dodging the Light Strike array. Very impressive there, but with the Winter's Curse vacuum back, this fight still could go very poorly for Hehe. A lot of Witch Doctor ultimate damage into stage 21, but with the Cold Embrace is going to stay alive for a while longer yet. Shadow Bladed Slark is going in like a bullet train. Looks like he wants to go for HWA. He's going to blow up the Drow Ranger. No hope for her. And now MDL is going to drop down to about half. He wants to go on to Cube, but Cube is not going to be a successful target. They're going to glimpse back Cube. I'm not sure where the Mirana ended up. In the middle of three heroes is exactly where she is. Chasing forward for the Lina. They're going to turn for Laguna Blade onto the Io. Not quite enough damage. But now that the Slark's showing the fray, there's your vacuum back. Double kill for the Winter Wyvern. Buyback for the Mirana. She really wants to snipe one of these kills. Claysinki wants to turn, but glimpse back to the base. I don't think they can do it unless an arrow lands, and that arrow is not going to land, unfortunately. That would have been a beautiful snipe onto state 21. But again, another fight that is successful. SFZ, but ooh, leap in to the double Starfall. Shadowy's going to be dropped low. Looks like Disruptor is going to be the one that they're going to have to lose. But keep in mind, that was also a buyback on the Mirana for just a Disruptor kill. That's not worth it unless this Arrow of Destiny lands. No, not going to happen. Spot it out well before its time, but that got a kill on stage 21. That's a different story entirely. The buyback would have been worth it, since that Darkseer is sitting on an 8-0 spree. Not something you see from Darkseers very often, but he's having the game of his life. All of this aggression is meaning that every single hero inside this game is getting something, with the exception of the Disruptor and the Witch Doctor. Their inventories aren't looking too happy, but no, it's still be very interesting. Roshan is going to be attempted by Hehe. As I said before, they do this very quickly, and I've just looked at that, even without any minus armor, no medallion, nothing of the sorts on their heroes. They'll be able to take it out in just a matter of seconds. So this is an objective that Hehe needed, and they need to transition this into something major. Although usually you'd probably like to see the Aegis picked up by the Drow Ranger. This was a Mirana that just recently bought back, and also probably does a little bit more than the Drow with the second life. Drow Ranger, if she dies once, is probably going to die a second time. Short relocate for reasons unknown coming up from the Ion. His is going to have that in cooldown for a little while longer. Mina's going to get the Light Strike array to line up, but ooh, the Tether away. Now his is going to survive, relocating back right in front of the Slark. The Pounce is going to go towards the Pugna Illusions, not actually going to latch on anything. So after all is said and done, nothing happens. Nobody's going to die yet, but oh my goodness, that vacuum onto 3 with the Winter's Curse to follow up. Claysinki is going to be blown to shreds. There's your Static Storm Kinetic Field combination, although his is outside of it, and the Laguna Blade onto the Drow Ranger. This is going to be an absolute disaster for the Hehe side. Cube is going to make it up to the high ground. Tether away coming up from his. Pretty good IO play as a whole. State 21 is dropped low. They need to kill off this Darkseer, but they can't do it in time. Arrow's going to be Secret Service by Ramses. Well played there, although he's going to be stuck on the ground for a while. Now surged up, they'll try to find the Mirana, but she's nowhere to be found. Still another amazing fight for the Scary Faces side, and this Drow Ranger lineup is completely falling flat on its face. This is the time where Drow Ranger lineups want to be considering pushing high ground, but after a couple of consecutive lost fights, Scary Faces have a very significant advantage. Mirana's going to be spotted, glimpsed back. Cube is in a lot of trouble, blown up. That's going to be Aegis down on the ground. They have a Light Strike array for whenever she comes back online, but here comes Paralyzing Cast, Witch Doctor ultimate. State 21 is dropped low, but another Cold Embrace to save their lives. MDL is going to lose his life unless he gets Deercraft healed by the Pugna. That's pretty good. Claysinki is going to bail out his support. And with it, looks like they want to back off. Cube is going to throw out the arrow, canceling Shadowy's TP. And now with a little bit of backup, looks like Shadowy is going to go down. But about time. Hehe are very reliant on their physical damage. Their magic damage burst is Pugna, Wisp Spirits, and Paralyzing Cask. A little bit of help from Mirana here and there, but it's nothing compared to the likes of what Lina is bringing to the table. The value that they're getting out of this Cold Embrace is absolutely ridiculous. Winter Wyvern's been on point with saving allies and just in general playing well. 3, 2, and 12 on that Winter Wyvern's KD. Shadowblade is up for the Lina. The double invis on SFZ under other circumstances might be severely punished, but he kind of have to commit into items that will allow them to push now, and they really don't want to be buying that much detection, although now it's kind of a mandatory thing. Mirana and Witch Doctor Io are going to be playing pretty aggressively, going to get some ward vision down. That's going to help a lot for these tier 2 tower pushes, but things are looking pretty poorly for Hehe. This is not how they envision the Drow Ranger lineup going. The Drow has died time and time again. This might be another time as the Invis Lina is going to look for the stun on HWA. She has a Yule Scepter, might have to use it, going to freehand the Light Strike, and there's the Laguna Blade. One auto attack, and that's all she needs. Will dodge the arrow, and now man fighting up against Cube. They're relocating in the IO, so new player has to bail. There's going to be a tether over towards the sideline, speeding up the Witch Doctor, trying to run after new player, but with that Yule Scepter is way too darn speedy. That's the way to show off the Shadow Blade. Very easy kill onto the Drow. Blink forward, backing back onto 3, but the follow-up damage isn't there, and State 21 took a lot from those spirits. Guardian Gears will be popped. Cold Embrace will stop all of that Witch Doctor ultimate from doing anything, really. They have a Winter's Curse on MDL. MDL is going to be ripped apart. There's a Light Strike Array, connects onto 2 with the Kinetic Field. Scary Faces again going to wipe the floor with Hehe now chasing forward for that last hero. And that's Claysinky. He's caught inside the trees. They know where the Pugna is, and poor Pugna will be ripped apart. It's a full 5-man wipe in the favor of Scary Faces. 13 to 30. And I don't think this really could be going much better for Scary Faces. I think Hehe are pretty much in the situation where they're just a couple minutes away from calling GG. The Drow just isn't paying off, and these items that are being picked up by Scary Faces are terrifying. You're looking at almost a 10,000 net worth lead for the Scary Faces side, and similar in experience. Guardian Greaves, a blink, another 1,100 gold on top of that for the Darks here. Lina, after only recently picking up the Shadow Blade, is halfway towards an Aghanim Scepter should she want it, and maybe we can see something like a Bloodstone for her, or Shiva's Guard, although usually not the pickup, could be really good this game, just some sort of armor item for her. And instead it's going to be a blink, just massing the mobility. Fair enough, get on top of that Drow. Blow her up, and they have been 0, 8, and 3. HWA has not been having a good game. Hehe, if they're going to get back into this game, need to get the next Roshan. It's still quite a ways out, but they need to set themselves up in a situation where they can get that second life, because without it, I don't see them being able to effectively split push on this map, and even with it, I really don't see them taking fights. This now becomes a map position game that Scary Faces themselves, by default, are winning, but Hehe need to be, based on their lineup. Aghanim Scepter is up on Pugna, and that's nice and all, but this Pugna, I don't really see what he's meant to do inside these fights. He's not mobile enough to where he can really get good value at the Aghanim Scepter when everybody on the Scary Faces side has a way to get on top of you. Oh no, HWA gets caught out. That's another kill for the Lina, and very easily blinks out of there. This is so scary to be playing up against. He cannot have vision on the entire map. It's just impossible, especially when Scary Faces commit, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentries in the top half of the map to T-ward it, and another couple over on the sidelines. They're going to catch out Keep inside the Moonlight Shadow, blow him sky high, and Mirana gets a little bit of help from the IO. They have a vacuum, however, catches both the IO and the Mirana. The wall is good, but not quite good enough. MPL's down on the low ground, caught out inside the kinetic field. It's going to get up as much channeling as possible from his ultimate, but it's not going to do anything, really. Claysinky will get a little bit of a life drain channel over towards the enemy side, but now they need to book it. Lina's coming in like a bullet train, has the Shadow Blade, has the Light Strike Array, Dragon Slave combination, even without the Laguna, can very easily kill off Nihiz if he lines up that stun, however. Not going to do so. The Yule Scepter is going to be used on herself, but Nihiz is caught inside the Static Storm. That's going to be his death. Shadowy's going to drop the ultimate. Not all that effective as they chase under the tower. A lot of healing coming out from Claysinky, and now with that Cold Embrace, that's going to be the death of State 21. A lot of gold going the way of the Mirana. She ends both the monster kill coming out from the Dark Seer and the killing spree from the Winter Wyvern, triple kill for Cube, and just like that is sitting on 3,000 gold. It looked a little bit awkward there for Hehe. 3 for 3 trade, but still worth it when it comes to the gold and experience change for their team. New lease on life for them. Yeah, Cold Embrace isn't particularly good against Pugna's ultimate, as we've just seen there. 16 to 34, 26 minutes into the game, a game packed full of action, and now Hehe are in a situation where maybe they can go ahead and sneak that Roche. They still do it insanely quickly, and now they have an SNY on their pot. I'm not sure if SNY is the item they really needed, but I don't think any singular item would be enough, so the jack of all trades, the spread item, is probably as good as it's going to get for Cube. I think it's a reasonable pickup. When I saw that Ogre Club inside his inventory, the first thought was BKB, but even with the Black King bar, I don't think Mirana does enough damage to really warrant it yet, so maybe after the SNY, or maybe after the SNY plus something else. Lina has the point booster in inventory, and the second SNY is also up for the draw. Hehe are finally getting some semblance of items, and even though the advantage is still in the favor of Scary Faces, a lot of this has gone into raw mobility. The Shadowblade Blink on Lina is pretty much her advantage over the enemy team, and Slark is in a pretty similar picture. That is, until he picks up the full Eye of Scotty. That's going to be flying out to him on the courier, a massive amount of gold in his pockets. Lina's rotation down towards bottom, I believe, was spotted out by this Observer Ward, a not super conventional ward, but a pretty darn good one. That's going to mean that maybe they can collapse on top of this Lina. Lina's going to Shadowblade right in front of the Witch Doctor. They look for the Paralyzing Cask, and it is going to fly forward. Not disjointed, she'll be stunned on the end, but Blink bought her more than enough space for them to actually capitalize on Lina going aggressive into enemy vision. Mid lane, Slark is going to be coming in. They spotted him out, TP out by HWA, he's going to be cancelled. They want to turn. Ramses is there, he has backup coming out from Eknard as well as Shadowy. They're going to blink forward, back him onto 3! They have the Winter's Curse. It's not going to do all that much, however. The Static Storm is pretty good, catching up both MDL and his. These two supports are getting sustained by the Pugna on the backlines, but Laguna Blade is going to crater the poor Pugna. No more life draining for you. 3 heroes are going to hit the deck. They chase forward for new player. They don't have the vision now. Cold Embrace is going to save his life. The Drow Ranger running towards the south, and to the east, you'll see the Mirana trying to escape the Drow, but Pounce is going to be on the mark onto HWA. Mirana, lucky enough for their team, is going to survive, but she walks around the corner again. There's a blink cooling down on this Lina in 1 second. Did she spot out Cube? It looks like the answer is no. Cube is going to look for an arrow. That's going to connect right on the money onto Shadowy, although it's cheeky. He can't do anything about it since the rest of his team is dead. Scary Faces now looking for the high ground push themselves. This game looks like it's all but over. The mass amount of teamfight AoE that they have is ridiculous, and even though their heroes aren't the greatest when it comes to putting damage onto these towers, nothing to compare to the likes of the Drow, it's still more than enough. Ramses is quick in the reactions, able to drop his Purge before that arrow lands, so he's going to be just fine. Now with the Yule Scepter on to keep, this is a lot of trouble for them. Light Strike Array is not going to connect, vacuum back after the leap. That was an awkward interaction. Dragon Slave going to be thrown over to the top of his. The Eye is still surviving. Pounce on the backlines. MDL is going to be ripped to shreds. Ramsey's going to go on to target number 2, and that target number 2 is Q. They have a little bit of life drain help, but it's going to be going into the Eye. Both of them are sustained at about 100% HP. They're going to change targets on the Claysinky, stopping the source of that health, but another life drain. This Pugna is playing quite well, but there's another Cold Embrace. We've seen that spell before. The amount of sustain on both of these teams is pretty absurd. Light Strike Array going to catch out HWA from the low ground. The follow-up damage isn't quite there. Scary Face is going to back off. The Eye is relocated back into base, and Claysinky has successfully repelled the enemy team. Looking for the arrow. The arrow is going to fly wide towards the left. They're going to get the jump this time over onto the poor Pugna, and with the Winter's Curse, Drow Ranger is going to kill her off her own teammate with no buyback on the Pugna, and with no buyback on the Drow. It looks like Scary Faces have done it. His is going to be pounced, chasing forward. Light Strike Array is going to connect on the Eye of his eye lag out, but that's a bit of an awkward time. Beyond Godlike for new players. They get a glimpse back onto Cube. Cube inside their base is going to be tagged by the Arctic Burn, leaps away in the nick of time, and is going to be able to make it back home to safety, but Ramsey's new player have not stopped yet. New player's dropping pretty low. The arrow's going to land. Mirana will get the dominating spree and kill off the Beyond Godlike spree for 1,600 gold, but what can Mirana do with that? She'll buy a Mentor Hammer, but now pounced on by the Slark. Cube is going to kill her in the shadow of her tier 4s, currently sitting on 32 stolen essences away from the enemy team, and with that, Scary Faces are going to be the ones to break the first rack. So when you pick up a Drow Ranger lineup, I've said it before, I'll say it again, your goal is to be taking your barracks at about this 25 to 30 minute mark, but Scary Faces are in fact the ones to do it with a very pick-off and teamfight oriented lineup. They've been playing very well, and this is going to transition to items that Hehe cannot themselves replicate. So as we slow things down, let's take a quick look at the net worth advantage. It's pretty gross. 20,000 in favor of the side of Scary Faces when it comes to net worth, and even more in experience. Blink Dagger on the Winter Wyvern, Mask of Madness on the Slark. Hey, why not? Why not hit a little bit harder? Why not get some life steal while you're at it, Ramses? I think at this point in the game, it doesn't matter what Slark buys as long as he doesn't feed a Rapier over. And even if he feeds a Rapier over, I'm not sure if that's the end of the game, but that's another story entirely. Mask of Madness is going to mean that he's stealing Essence at a ridiculous rate. Bloodstone for the Lina, Shiva's Guard for the Darkseer, and nothing really for Hehe. Mirana, even after ending the Beyond Godlike spree from the Lina, is still sitting on only the Mithril Hammer. Whether this is a Deso or whether this is a Maelstrom or a BKB, I don't think it matters much since it's just not as big an item as the enemy team pickup. And now Ramses is going to look for the pounce on a cube, trying to bait out the leap. He has the Mask of Madness, so he's not even going to activate it. Who needs to use items? I mean, pretty overrated, I do say so myself. But now he's going to find MDL, just stealing essences away from the enemy team. Now the Mask of Madness is activated, he's attacking at a ridiculous rate. Pugna is going to be blown up down towards bottom, and Lena's not done yet. She has a double damage rune, but can't find anybody else to stick on. Instead, it's going to be the tier 2 tower. Even through backdoor protection was doing a little bit of damage, but now that the creeps are here, it's going to be it. Indeed, he is right in saying Darkseer just got 322 gold from killing off the Pugna, so 322 confirmed. We'll go into the push down in bottom lane. Scary Faces still looking pretty dominant, and if it's not already obvious, this game is pretty much over, unfortunately. He just weren't able to hit their timing window appropriately, and that Bloodstone on Lina. After this next fight, I'd expect to have quite a lot of charges. Tier 3 tower is going to be dropping low. Light Strike Array will connect onto HWA. There's your vacuum. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful combo. I guess I'll just let that speak for itself. Look at him melt. That's going to be a good game called out. And well played to Scary Faces. A lot of this comes down to the draft, at least in my eyes. I think that he had a draft that was too hard to execute. It wasn't even that good. I'm pretty sure that Scary Faces, on face value, had heroes that were good at dealing with what he were bringing to the table. And they had a very small and precise window that they could have executed in, but they just weren't able to. It's very hard, and I don't think that comes down to them playing poorly. It just comes down to them going for a very risky draft, and this time it doesn't pay off. It's a best of 3, however. We're going to have more games coming up. Quick shout out to the sponsors: Alpha Draft, Esport Gaming, Dota 2 Lounge, Steel Series, and Pro Dota. So we'll be going into game number 2 in just a minute. See you soon.
Are you an esports fan? Prove your knowledge and start winning cash on Alpha Draft Fantasy Esports. This year, we'll pay out over $5 million in prizes to over 50,000 esports fans every single week. To play, first select from hundreds of contests from the hottest esports. Then, choose your team of pros and watch their stats update in real time during games. Right now, we'll match every dollar you deposit up to $250. What are you waiting for? Redeem your deposit bonus and play Alpha Draft now.